Heyo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight for another WWE Raw review, and much to nobody's surprise, for the most part of tonight, it was absolutely dreadful. Your typical Monday Night Raw dumpster fire of a show, and if we learned one thing, it is that one great match does not fix an entire show. And you have to give Raw credit where credit is due. For once, they actually got something right. This is not something we really say very often, but the United States Championship triple threat match that was booked tonight was booked very well. It was booked properly, and we had a big time win for the new United States champion, Damian Priest, as he defeated both Sheamus and Drew McIntyre in the best match of the night. But that's not really setting a very high bar, because the rest of the matches on this night were full of botches, were mostly slow, and for the most part were very, very meaningless. Now, while they did give us a great United States Championship matchup, I did not appreciate the way they decided to go about building this matchup, because Monday Night Raw started with an overly long, overly crowded opening segment full of nothing but nonstop bullshit from one person to the next. And I will give credit once again to Damian Priest for coming out there and doing the best he can to kick off this show. He decided to throw some shade at Lashley based off of their interactions last week, but pretty much was out there to kick off this United States Championship Open Challenge, which was answered immediately by the former champion Sheamus, which was like, womp womp, nobody wants this, we don't want to have to click and execute a rematch alert now, do we? And WWE knew this was going to be the case and decided to throw a curveball at us by changing trajectories with Drew McIntyre and sending him towards the United States Championship, as he threw his hat in the mix and was now making me interested in what was about to happen. Because really, no matter how he comes out of it, if Damian Priest wins this triple threat match, at this point I'm thinking he's going to be viewed in a much higher light by a majority of the casual audience, and it will satisfy most of us who have followed Damian Priest's career as well from NXT. So I was giving them the benefit of the doubt. Up until this point, I was satisfied, but then they had to bring out the almighty Bobby Lashley, who had to have something to say to Damian Priest, because, you know, they had their thing last week, and he wanted to throw his hat in the ring, and he wanted to become a multiple-time champion, a two-time belt holder at the moment, by taking the United States Championship from Damian Priest tonight as well. So now I'm thinking, okay, I could get behind a fatal four-way main event for Monday Night Raw involving Bobby Lashley as well as the other three gentlemen. It's very easy. Damian Priest could still win. You could protect the champion by not having Lashley take the pinfall. You have Sheamus be the one to take the pinfall in this scenario, and then that leaves Drew McIntyre free to be set to be the next opponent for Damian Priest going forward. This is how my brain is logically trying to put everything together, and at this point, once again, I'm still alright with it, even though the promos here are going on a little too long and don't really do anything to get you excited for this matchup. The prospect of this fatal four-way is there, and I'm good with it. But then things want to get really out of hand, and RK Bro want to come out, and I don't understand what they're doing out there at all. It seems like they're just taking all of their ideas and dumping them out there at the beginning of Monday Night Raw with no rhyme or reason, because RK Bro came out, I think, to answer the Damian Priest challenge. Maybe Riddle wanted to get in there. Maybe Randy wanted to get in there. I don't know. But somehow, due to the power of bad promo work and corny jokes from Matt Riddle pretending to be as dumb as dirt, or maybe he is, hopefully that's not the case, but he was made to look like a jackass tonight. Randy Orton's trying to explain to him how an open challenge works, as he pretty much laid out a challenge to MVP and Bobby Lashley to challenge them for the Raw Tag Team Championships, while the United States Open Challenge is going on in the ring, and now everything is getting a bit confusing. Randy and Riddle really had no reason to be out there, other than to make the challenge to the champ and his manager. which could have been a completely separate segment on the show. But they decided to throw this all in one bowl right at the beginning of this show to make everything seem more nonsensical than usual, a lot more overcrowded than it should be, and we set up two really big matches because Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville, who are still not formally the general managers of this entire company, but act as the general managers of this company, decide, hey, we're going to have these matches tonight, two great main events here on Monday Night Raw, and on we go with the show. But it doesn't get good right off the bat. It starts off with a terrible women's matchup, and again, no disrespect to the women involved, but the WWE have done nothing to make Rhea Ripley interesting. They have done zero with Shayna Baszler. Here was a feud that we have already seen brewed up in NXT that was done really well. And now we see them here. Neither one of these women have any heat in any direction, except possibly go-away heat for Rhea Ripley. They think they're going to counteract this by having Rhea Ripley announce that she's going to have Nikki A.S.H. Hole in her corner, which we all already knew because, she was in the graphic, so you weren't making any groundbreaking, surprising announcement. And Rhea Ripley came out to no reaction. Neither did the so-called almost a superhero. She came out, nobody gave a shit. Shayna Baszler came out with Nia Jax. And Nia Jax would end up being a story on this show that I don't want to really talk about. Now, we'll get back to Nia Jax and her involvement in this show in just a minute. But Rhea Ripley and Shayna Baszler were given 10 minutes here, and they seemed to not really know what they were doing. There were a lot of very questionable spots. They looked like their chemistry was just a step off, but there was nothing really happening here. All of it was just a setup for the looming threat of Nia Jax, who promised to lay everybody out tonight on multiple occasions on this show. She grabbed the mic before this thing even started and threatened to flatten Rhea Ripley and Nikki A.S.H. before this match even ended, and then would go on to do the same to Charlotte Flair later tonight. And this broad would make good on this promise and almost kill everybody she touched tonight. If you watch this match, Nia Jax gave a clothesline to Rhea Ripley at the close of this matchup, but the positioning in the ring and their positioning to one another was so dangerous that Rhea Ripley's neck bounced off of the top rope, maybe gave her whiplash. She definitely ran the risk of breaking something serious in her neck right there. It was sloppy. It was embarrassing. It was awful. It was awful. Just so this big sideshow Bob lookalike can come out and get some kind of a push and give her some kind of momentum leading into a stupid championship, not championship opportunity, but a stupid matchup against the champion later on tonight. Who gives a shit about Nia Jax? Do you? Do we care? No. Do we care that she flattened Nikki A.S.H. on the outside with the Samoa drop? No. Do we care that she beat up Rhea Ripley? No. Do we care that she's almost killing people? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And it struggles in my mind when I think of the fact that the WWE don't give a shit. We have seen this woman out there on multiple occasions injuring people, being sloppy, not knowing what she's doing, and that would never be more apparent than when she comes out later in her match with Charlotte Flair. But here, Rhea Ripley defeats Shayna Baszler in a 10-minute long match that the crowd was asleep for the most part. Nobody gave a shit. I didn't. You didn't. Let's move on. It's not worth another minute of airtime. You know what else isn't worth any airtime? The Viking Raiders. They were on Monday Night Raw tonight for the first time in a long time, but they decided to go back to the way they originally introduced them, and they're still wearing their big stupid get-up. They're giving Karrion Cross a run for his money on who's the most goofy-looking idiot on Monday Night Raw. Now, I know that the Viking Raiders had it first, but I think Karrion Cross might take the win here on who looks goofier, because at least, they're claiming to be Vikings. So they're trying to play the part. They're wearing the stupid horns and the fur and the whatever. But is Karrion Cross legitimately being called the Gladiator now? I mean, I see people calling him the Gladiator on social media. I don't know what's going on with Karrion Cross. All I know is that he still looks ridiculous, just as ridiculous as the Viking Raiders, and they were put into a match that was a complete throwaway tag team match to give them I guess, a much needed win to make people believe that the Viking Raiders are even a viable team again, but they threw them in there against Jinder Mahal and Schmear, or Veer. I like to call him Schmear because that's what he is to me. He's just a schmear on the wall. He does nothing for me. We know nothing about Schmear. We know nothing about Stanky, his partner. We do know that they looked like a tag team, right? So, of course, WWE in true fashion doesn't give us the Viking Raiders versus Schmear and Stanky. They give us Jinder Mahal and Veer with Stanky on the outside. For what reason? Because we need to have Jinder Mahal in the ring? Oh, that's right. Maybe he's the only one of the three gentlemen involved that can take the finish of the Viking Raiders, being that he's the smallest of that group. I don't know who gave a shit about this match other than maybe the Viking Raiders and their significant others at home, probably cheering them on. One of them probably feeding a baby at this point. It doesn't matter what they're doing. You know what I'm doing? I'm skipping this type of shit on Monday Night Raw, and so should you. Does it matter that the Viking Raiders beat Jinder Mahal and one half of his tag team bodyguards? No. No, it does not. This was a barely 5-minute long matchup. Good for the Viking Warrior Raiders. Who are they going to lose to next week? There are no other tag teams in the division because the other two tag teams in the division are busy doing main event things with the World Champion and the United States Champion and things like that. But we will get back to that in just a second as we get to the triple threat match. Damian Priest defeated Drew McIntyre and Sheamus to retain the United States Championship, and he did so by pinning Drew McIntyre after a near 20-minute battle. This was a battle. This was a great match, and this match was not immune to the botch fest that was going on tonight on Monday Night Raw. Most specifically, the one thing I noticed that just made me cringe, and not in a, oh, this is bad kind of way, but more like, oh my God, I hope he's not dead. Because there was a moment where they were doing a spot in the corner where Drew McIntyre was hung upside down, and then Damian Priest was going to suplex Sheamus off the top rope. Drew McIntyre sat up, grabbed Damian Priest by the waist, and then back suplexed him from his position, simultaneously bringing Sheamus from the top. But the way that it was executed just made me think that there's a slight chance, I was seeing it in slow motion in front of me, that Damian Priest is going to die right now, and I'm totally scared. But thankfully, it didn't look as bad as it seemed to me on TV. It was a close spot. It was a close spot. But this was a great match. It was hard-hitting. It was really fun. It was a great way to feature Damian Priest. The fact that they put him in the position to beat Drew McIntyre to get the win, and Sheamus was pretty much a non-entity in the finish, goes to show you that they have some faith in Priest, and they actually did something here to book somebody and get them over. Now comes the part that's more important than maybe any going forward, because they can't fuck this up now. This is a very important period. He just went out on Monday Night Raw beating a former World Heavyweight Champion for his newly won United States Championship, and it was fantastic. The follow-up to this has to be just as good. Damian Priest is on the precipice of breaking the curse of coming from NXT and not being pigeonholed into bullshit stuff and actually being taken seriously, and I don't want them to stray from this at all. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when we get there. Right now, I'm happy enough with just that, but not happy enough to sustain me for 3 hours of fucking garbage. Because after they gave us this really excellent match, which was very well put together and very well booked, They went on a string of dog shit that makes me bring up the poop hammer because it is more than deserved. When I tell you guys what is the next sequence of things that existed on Monday Night Raw, you might not even believe me. First up, we started up with footage of Goldberg, and we got to get an update on this. He tells the camera guy, hey, he needs surgery on his knee because, he blew it out. I don't know if this is for real, if this is in kayfabe or what. He says he's not coming back to the WWE for the WWE Championship. And for a moment, I was like, oh, yeah, great. He's not coming back. He's broken. He knows he's old, and he's just going to fucking stay there and go with his little son and do whatever it is he wants to do. But then he continued, much to my chagrin, and was like, no, I'm coming for Lashley's soul, and he wants to rip it from his chest. Apparently, Bill Goldberg thinks that the WWE is the Mortal Kombat universe, and he's going to come and do a fatality on Bobby Lashley, the Almighty. Well, that might be interesting to see. It's not something that I want to see at all. At some point, that's going to either involve Lashley losing the title to Bill Goldberg or Lashley losing the title before he gets to Bill Goldberg. Either way, I don't think it's time for that to happen just yet. WWE likes to have him lose all over the place, so who knows? Who knows? We'll get to more of that a little bit later. Oh, the next in the sequence of dog shit that deserves poop hammers and nothing more than thousands of poop hammers is Reggie at the park. Reggie in the park, flipping around with R-Truth and a stupid dog. A stupid dog that ended up being Akira Tozawa in disguise. R-Truth's walking around with a fucking blonde wig on, trying to be disguised. You can't be disguised. You're R-Truth. It doesn't matter. Everybody knows you just by looking at you. You're not fooling anybody in the wig. The dog costume on Akira Tozawa was jumping the shark for me. This was too much, and I didn't use that as a way to do a clever pun in talking about Reggie and his parkour bullshit. This guy's flipping around the park like a freak. He's jumping, he's doing all this kind of parkour shit, and I'm thinking to myself, John Morrison's probably pissed, right? Because he's the guy that kind of introduced parkour into pro wrestling on the WWE stage, at the very least, and now it's being made such a big deal of, oh, look at fucking Reggie flip! Reggie can flip, he's so fucking great, look at him flip, we gave him the 24/7, look at me, I'm a clown, an avocado-colored gold-plated title belt that nobody cares about, that I keep forgetting even exists until I see him put on Monday Night Raw to flip around like a jumping bean, and nobody cares. Well, I guess it seems like some people care. For some reason, Reggie's continuing to be on my television screen, and it's nothing but poop hammer shit. This following the Goldberg segment, and this also led us into Eva Marie on Monday Night Raw facing Doudrop. Now, Eva Marie being on Monday Night Raw alone is just a travesty. You want to talk about everything wrong with Monday Night Raw. That's case in point, a numero uno. This girl is a complete, absolute waste. And I don't care if this is part of the storyline that they're booking for her. You know what they're making her look like? A continuation of the loser that she was when she left the first time. Right? Eva Marie has had Doudrop wrestle all her matches for her, interfere to get her wins, or claim Doudrop's wins as her own. This has led to this very sudden and very uneventful feud between Eva and Doudrop. And now Eva comes out, Doudrop comes out, she attacks Eva Marie before the match even gets going, and Eva was hurt to the point where she was unable to compete tonight. Doudrop announced herself as the winner, and the losers here are all of us, because none of this made sense. If this was positioned to make Doudrop into a superstar, it's a fail. It's a fail to me. That this means nothing. Beating Eva Marie is about as much of an accomplishment as rolling out of bed in the morning for somebody the capabilities of Piper Niven. I don't buy it. I don't care. I hate it. I hate it. It's just a fucking waste of our time. Then it continues again because we have an interview with Charlotte Flair, and she tells everyone how she's not worried about Nia Jax because she's the queen. Whoop, whoop. Robo Charlotte is annoying, and we don't care about anything she has to say. We care about as much about that as we do about what they have been doing to Karrion Cross. I can't care anymore. I really can't care anymore. But let's just take a look at this, you guys. Humor me, if you will. Side by side here, this vision on the right is his debut last week. This picture you see on the left is him coming out this week. Obviously, they decided to tighten the mask up a little bit so he doesn't look like an 8-year-old going trick-or-treating on Halloween. He actually looks like some sort of a fighter wearing a mask. They did this by tightening it up, and that is painfully obvious by the gigantic strap hanging from the mask now, which was not there last week. Form-fitting a little bit, yes. Does it make a slight improvement? I guess if you wanted to fish for compliments, you could say, sure, this is a very slight improvement here. However, I can't help but look at him and think of the Sultan. The Sultan from old school 1995 WWE days. He's coming out looking like that. It's just, it was so laughed at last week that there's almost no way that it's going to get over. But one of the main reasons why I brought this up and brought these pictures up is I'm going to take last week's picture out of the equation. And I want you to take note, gentlemen and ladies, if I can remove this. Look at these guys. Look at these two guys immediately to the right of Karrion Cross here tonight. This was on tonight's episode. Look at their faces. Look at their faces. If there was anything that ever encapsulates just how ambivalent, just how meaningless and worthless what they've done to Karrion Cross is, look at these guys' faces, man. It tells the story. The faces of indifference. The one towards the back is even better. This guy in the front with the beard, with the red beard, he's just like, fucking guy. Look at this guy, right? But the guy in the back, the guy with the hat and the glasses on his head, he's like, what the fuck am I looking at? What the hell is that? This guy's having Ninja Turtle flashbacks. And the guy, the redhead guy with the mohawk here in the upper front with the tattoos on his arm, he looks like he's just about to burst out laughing. And the guy in the forefront here, he's not even caring enough to pay any attention to Karrion Cross. And I feel like that's what's happening to the WWE Universe as a whole. Nobody's paying very much attention to Karrion Cross. Why they had to do this to Karrion Cross, I don't know. Why Triple H has to have all of the things he creates changed and stripped. Why Scarlett is not with him. Why they gave him this ridiculous get-up. You know, it doesn't really get over. It's supposed to be making him more marketable. Like it's going to make you want his action figure more because it has a fucking mask and some gladiator gear on it. You know all you needed to do to sell Karrion Cross's action figure? Put it in a 2-pack with a sexy Scarlett figure and boom, automatic sales. Gonna go flying through the roof. Or hey, how about this? You book him in a manner where he looks like he matters. You get fans to give a shit about him, and then you could make any fucking doll you want. Doesn't matter what he looks like. You think the Viking Raiders are selling merchandise because they got plastic fucking horns on their head? That's not gonna make me buy their figure more than anything. I can't stand that team right now. I'll buy a War Machine tag team set of toys, but I'm not gonna buy the Viking Raiders. I don't need their fucking get-up. I want the cool teams. I don't want this shit. So I'll take the old Karrion Cross, with or without a Scarlett figure, over something like this. So don't give me it makes him more marketable. What it makes him is more of a joke. And then you have him go out there and beat Humberto Carrillo tonight in less than 5 minutes. And what my friends, does that mean? If you could go out there and beat Humberto Carrillo, that's pretty much like a rite of passage at this point, isn't it? Everybody beats him. If he didn't beat him, then he might as well just quit. Don't even go back to NXT. If he lost to Humberto tonight, holy shit. Imagine what the internet would have been like. How the fire would have been all over the place for what they did to Karrion Cross. Karrion Cross is buried, man. No, it doesn't matter. His character is dead in the water. The only thing they could do is bring his girl along with him. Maybe that'll fix him. Maybe if they let them do the entrance with the smoke and Scarlett with the lip syncing and the crowd will get into the broad and then she brings out the badass wrestler and then he kicks somebody's fucking teeth down their throat, starts winning championships. That's how you make a superstar. Not by covering his face in a mask with a pizza color scheme. Looking like something out of the Ninja Turtles. Like Shredder's more ashamed, retarded little brother. The Sprocket. Fucking awful. Awful, you guys. As we continue to talk about awful, let's just go back to this picture of Karrion Cross. Not just to laugh at Karrion Cross, but to bring up this other picture. And I'm sorry to do this to you. And if you're eating right now, you may want to stop eating. But bam. I want you guys to take a look at this image. If I can get it right here. Where is it? Why isn't it coming up? Oh, of course, we're going to be live and some stupid shit's going to happen. My picture won't change. There we go. Get rid of you. Is that her? Where the fuck is it? Oh my god. This is a nightmare. No, that's him. Alright, fuck it. I had a picture of Nia Jax ready to go. It was a really funny picture. It's the one I used in the thumbnail. Because I was going to say, this is the face of the woman that deserves nothing that she's getting. This is the face of a woman who is hell-bent on killing everybody in the roster. A woman who is still very sloppy in the ring. Still very terrible at her craft. Almost as if she doesn't practice anymore. Or, I don't know, maybe she just gets so nervous when it comes to TV time that she forgets what to do. And she's still being put in these high-profile situations. And she's still very much hurting people. You can't tell me Charlotte Flair did not get hurt in this match tonight. There were multiple times in this match where Charlotte and Nia seemingly forgot what the fuck they were doing altogether. And it looked like it was getting Charlotte very mad. Towards the end of the match, it looked like they were just like shoving each other and kind of poking at each other because they didn't know what the hell they were doing. And suddenly Nia Jax delivered this terrible, terrible looking powerbomb and then won the match. But throughout this match, she missed the leg drop. She missed her spot where Charlotte was coming off with a moonsault and she kind of maybe got her knees up. All the miscommunications and the mix-up, apparently. There's no other word for it. They were mixed up. They forgot their spots. This match was a fucking joke. There were multiple spots where Nia Jax looked like she just dropped Charlotte on her fucking head. But Charlotte seemed to be okay. There was one moment where there was a spine buster that looked terrible. There was a really bad backdrop. The final spot of that choke slam bomb she does sounded like a gunshot. And Charlotte looked really shook up after it. But this whole entire match was a gigantic mess. A gigantic mess. And you know what's even worse? The fact that Charlotte Flair, the Raw Women's Champion, lost to Nia Jax, which by WWE standards means Nia Jax is now the #1 contender for the title. So we're going to see this match again. But more than likely, Charlotte will get her win back, defend her championship. Hopefully she doesn't get fucking killed in the process. Holy shit, you guys. What a Terrible, terrible match. In fact, this was so bad, I'm sure it's going to be a hot topic talking point for everybody tomorrow. Everybody else that you listen to besides me is going to be tearing this shit up, and it's probably going to be what this episode of Raw is remembered most for. It was so bad that it even overshadowed the great triple threat match. I will probably remember this more than that. And that's a shame. But that's Monday Night Raw for you guys. Typical. And the hits just keep on coming. And by hits, I mean sledgehammer hits to the head, because I just don't understand what WWE is doing. Next up, we have John Morrison talking about how he was supposed to fight The Miz tonight, one of the many matches that we were advertised last week but were canceled this week, as the WWE decided to shake things up and seemingly didn't do things much better. But he wants to prove himself tonight. He promised his acting coach that he was going to be impressive tonight by standing up to a huge challenge. So he made a challenge to Omos. Omos tells him it sucks to be him. John Morrison's like, yeah, I guess it does. And then we go and have this matchup. Omos versus John Morrison. And I'm hiding my head in embarrassment, because here they had an opportunity. First of all, Omos shouldn't be having a match versus John Morrison right now. It's just stupid. But if you're going to do this, at least do this in a way where both guys could look great. Don't just fucking squash John Morrison in his first match without the fucking Miz as a babyface against Omos in less than 2 minutes. That's not what you do to a guy like John Morrison. And I don't care for the whole, America's Most Wanted, Johnny Drip Drip with the drip stick and all the fucking wet puns and all the silly water jokes. It's annoying, but I do appreciate the talents of John Morrison enough to just overlook that now that he's not with The Miz and give this guy a shot. But apparently the WWE doesn't feel the same way. He could have went out there and looked great. You could have had Omos throwing him around, have him use his parkour skills instead of focusing it in all on fucking Reggie. You could let John Morrison shine a little bit, land on the ropes, fall to the outside, and then jump to the announce table. Make him fucking look good. Maybe have him have a 5, 6, maybe even 10-minute match with Omos where, he's not going to get much offense in, but he could be playing stick and move. He could be playing smart, getting in a quick shot and then running away, trying to stick to the air, trying to ground the giant, trying to be a smart fucking pro wrestler, only to have AJ Styles get involved and fuck things up, which can set up John Morrison versus AJ Styles going along, which is a great idea. Those two guys together could make magic in the ring, but instead of doing anything fucking smart like that, Omos just wipes the floor with John Morrison in very unimpressive fashion. He is your typical traditional WWE big man. He has done nothing to impress me. He just won with a fucking choke slam and a clothesline, or the tree slam, whatever he calls it. And that was it for John Morrison. Thanks for fucking coming. Apparently you're worthless to the WWE without The Miz. He's not going to come back and get his win back. You think the fucking WWE is going to let Omos lose to John Morrison? I don't think so. And they missed the prime opportunity to set up a feud of a lifetime with Morrison versus AJ Styles. What do they have for AJ Styles tonight? Well, he came out next, because Omos stood out there waiting for AJ Styles. AJ came out to fight Xavier Woods because they don't have anything for anybody to do. Kofi Kingston is still out recovering from his injury. Xavier Woods has got nothing to do, so let's put him in a match with AJ Styles. And I love AJ Styles, and I also love Xavier Woods. I also pretty much liked this match. It had a few weird moments, like the finish I wasn't too happy about, because AJ ends up winning this thing with the calf crusher. But Xavier Woods was so close to the rope. He was like inches from the ropes that if he just like shrugged his shoulder or something, man, he would have been able to grab the bottom rope. It was one of those times where you assumed that AJ was going to do something clever and roll him up, pull him back to the center of the ring, and then lock it in, and then he could have tapped out. But he was so close that I thought it was silly for him to give up and tap out within it was a pubic hair's reach away from his fingertip. It was just not what I would have done given that scenario. Like I said, at the very least, they could have had AJ bring him back to the center of the ring, show the man a little bit more respect. But it just felt a little bit off. But the match itself was fairly good. I love both of these guys. They're tremendous talents. It just came out of nowhere. It means nothing. Where is it going? AJ gets a win here. Xavier Woods with another great performance in the ring. But what are they doing with him? They're not doing anything. It's not going anywhere. What was it for? What does it mean? It means nothing. It was just a random match between two great athletes, and it was mildly enjoyable. I just wish there was a little bit more meaning behind matches like this. And then after AJ wins, he decides he's going to go on commentary, so he and Omos stay out there for the main event, which is RK Bro, the Raw Tag Team Champions, Randy Orton and Matt Riddle, taking on the WWE Champion Bobby Lashley and MVP for the Raw Tag Team Championships, as was made in the opening segment, which was terrible. But this match was exactly what you thought it was. As soon as you knew AJ and Omos were going to be outside, you knew they were going to play some part in the finish. The action here was decent. It was a fine tag team match. I don't care for when MVP gets in there with Bobby Lashley. I just, I can't be hypocritical and criticize Bill Goldberg at 50 years old for getting in the ring and then be like, no, yeah, MVP can go, when he's like the same age as Bill Goldberg. So it's like, it's the main event of Raw. You could have gave Bobby Lashley a surprise teammate or something, and MVP's great as a manager. We don't need him in the ring sucking up pins so that Bobby Lashley can lose without losing. It's not necessary to me. But the match itself was okay. The only thing I didn't like, aside from the obvious interference by the former tag team champions, was the implications of what's coming next. All we are going to do is move forward with more matches between RK Bro and AJ and Omos. They're going to get their rematch. We're going to get a bunch of matches with them and more shit involving them because there are no other tag teams ready to go. Like we seen earlier in the night, the Viking Raiders are fighting made-up tag teams that don't even matter. They ain't ready to go for the tag team titles. And what other tag teams are there on Monday Night Raw? There aren't any. So what the hell are they going to do? They're going to give us rematch after rematch here with this. It seems like we're going back on that road. And what did this really mean for Bobby Lashley? This made him look like an idiot. He's the one that went out with his eyes on the United States Championship. He accepted the challenge, changed his trajectory to add the tag team championships to his repertoire, banking on his own ability because he's got to know that his manager ain't going to be giving him shit, right? But it makes him look like a fool. And then he goes out there and he's on the losing team, so the champion loses to the Raw Tag Team Champions in the main event of Monday Night Raw. And for what? Is he going to be in a feud now with RK Bro as well? Where does Bobby Lashley go? Is he going to go back to picking on Damian Priest? Like, what did this accomplish for the champion? It accomplished absolutely nothing. And while it made Riddle and Randy look great, everybody loves RK Bro. It was a feel-good moment. The champs retained their titles, and they beat the Almighty, and they beat MVP, and Omos and AJ didn't do anything to cost them anything, but they did get involved to some extent towards the end. But at the end, the show just ended with Randy Orton and Matt Riddle celebrating their win. A little bit of after the match nonsense. Lashley speared Matt Riddle. Randy Orton RKO'd Lashley out of nowhere, obviously. It's just, this episode of Raw is just there. And it's there for one really great match, but will most likely be remembered for one fucking terrible, terrible match, which is something that has been going on for years. Whenever we talk about a match involving Nia Jax or Charlotte Flair, and here you take my two least favorite flavors of the women's division and you mashed them together in a sundae and you tried to put a cherry on top, and I still would rather eat puke. That's the bottom line, because Sledgehammer said so. And that was tonight's Raw, you guys. That was it. What else can I tell you? It fucking sucked. It had one really great match, but the rest of the show really, really sucked. So now, since we're live and we're all back together and everything is working once again, you don't even know the weekend I had with this fucking weather in New York and the internet and the power going down and my router getting all fucked up. I had a hell of a time getting back to streaming capabilities. So let's spend some time together since we are reunited and it feels so good. Don't forget, super chats are open if you would like to shout out any particular question. Yes, D-Boy, I said pubic hairs during this show. I said it was a pubic hair away. His reach. He was that far. See how far my finger is from you? That's how far he was from the ropes. Xavier Woods could have saved himself. Got to the ropes and not tapped out. What's going on, guys? I love each and every one of you. Thank you for coming out to the stream tonight. Don't forget to fire away with any questions. We have some sort of a troll present in the chat because we all know that's not the actual fucking Eva Marie, and if it is, you're horrible and we don't like you here, so please go away. Maxime Sage, welcome back, my brother, to you as well. Don't even pay it any attention, you guys. It doesn't matter. She doesn't matter in real life. Her defenders don't matter. Her trolls don't matter. Nothing about it matters. I could care less. It's just terrible stuff. Absolutely terrible. Well, I have your attention for a minute in the chat room. Boom. Let's give a shout out to today's sponsor, BarkBox. High quality and healthy and delicious toys and treats for your wrestling fan pooch at home. Your furry little wrestling buddy. He deserves some good treats too. You can check out our exclusive link, barkbox.com/SledgehammerTV. You can get an exclusive deal there. It's really fun. I happened to sign up at a time where I was able to get a WWE themed BarkBox. I don't know if it's still available. If it is, you guys jump the fuck on it. It is fantastic. My dog loves it. And let me tell you something about these treats. And I'm not saying this as a salesman. I'm saying this because I was legitimately fucking shocked that when I opened up these treats, I wanted to eat them. They smell fantastic, and they don't smell like beef or bacon or any of those nasty, dog-smelling treats that you would imagine. They're made of like pumpkin and cinnamon and all natural ingredients that are good for your dog, and I legitimately wanted to eat that one. My wife kept daring me to do so, but I simply would not because I'm not a fucking idiot, and I'm not that hard up that I'm going to eat a dog treat just to satisfy the curiosity of my wife. I know if I asked her to do it, she wasn't going to do it. So why should I? Right? However, my dog gobbles them up as if there's no tomorrow. Wow, if that was a sidebar if there ever was one. But they really do smell great, and your dog's going to love them. So check it out. barkbox.com/SledgehammerTV. There's a link in the description. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. You can get one box. You could sign up for a monthly deal, 12 months, 6 months, whatever you want to do, whatever your deal is. But it's definitely worth it. And it'll help out your favorite wrestling show by supporting us through supporting them. So I hope you guys, at the very least, check it out and see what it's all about. So, let's keep this train rolling. What was your least favorite moment, ladies and gentlemen, for tonight? Hey, my buddy Shoji is in the chat. What's up, brother Shoj? He says the triple threat U.S. title match was a good, fresh idea. It should have been the main event. I agree with that. That tag team match did not need to be the end of the show. I know it involved multiple championships, but It would have been much nicer to close the show with Damian Priest being planted on top. It would have been a great main event. He would have beaten Drew McIntyre. They could have closed on a nice feel-good moment. Drew raising the hand of the new guy in town, and it would have maybe been a little bit more effective. But what they did tonight was very effective for Damian Priest. I'm fucking proud of them for actually doing the right thing in this scenario, which is not something that we ever fucking say when we talk about Monday Night Raw. But yeah, I'm all for that, and I think that's a great idea. I think it would have been really great if that was the main event. RK Bro, listen, all right, I'm a fan. But I would say I'm a casual fan of it. See, now I wasn't really huge on Matt Riddle to begin with. I know a lot of you guys are really into him. A lot of you guys probably think he's really funny. You get his little "I'm a stoner" joke kind of thing. To me, he's a knockoff RVD. He is very talented in the ring. He pulls off some interesting stuff. But the character the WWE is creating and scripting for him is really just not my cup of tea. I think people, are looking at him more in the ways you would look at like a Santino. Remember how Santino was like, he was cool, but he was a fucking joke, right? But you loved Santino. He made you laugh. He dressed as a girl. He had the Cobra. He was the whole Santina thing. Like, it was funny. It had its place. But Santino was never meant to be a serious guy. And Santino didn't come from an MMA background. And he didn't have all this hype about being so fucking great. And then you get Matt Riddle, and, he did okay in NXT. And then they come to the main roster, and he's shooting fucking pigeons out his feet. And he's wearing his hat backwards, and he's riding a scooter, and he's acting like an 8-year-old boy who knows about smoking pot. Which is another complete mindfuck. He's mentally 8 years old. Is that because he smokes pot? I don't know. I smoke weed. I'm not mentally 8 years old. I can still break down this show better than 90% of the people on this fucking platform, and it has no effect on me. Why does it affect Matt Riddle so much that he don't even understand how a fucking open challenge works? Can you explain that to me? I can't explain it. I can't explain it. Somebody please explain it. There's a lot of things I can explain to you. I can explain to you guys, I have almost a foolproof plan on how to save Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. But I'm going to save that. I'm going to save that because I'm planning another video. And we'll do it live Saturday night, if all goes well. We are going to debut an all-new show. We are going to view Saturday Night Sledgehammer. I wanted to call it Sledgehammer Saturday Night, which got a better ring to it when you say it. But the logo looked better when I designed it, with the Saturday night first. But it's my show. I can call it what I want and label it what I want, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about some steps that could be taken creatively to save Monday Night Raw, because it's possible. It's possible, and there's one huge way it can be done, and we'll talk about it this Saturday night on Sledgehammer TV. Probably around 9 p.m. if all goes well, maybe a little bit later. I know you guys are used to me being around at this time, so maybe we'll hold it off to be like late night. We'll compete with Saturday Night Live, and we'll have Sledgehammer Saturday Night Live, and we're going to save Raw. You and me together. Get your ideas up and come at that show ready to go. Because I'm going to be ready to go, and you're going to love it. I guarantee it. Let's go back to the chat for a second. Shoji says, the worst moment. Why bury Morrison like that when it looks like they were going to rebuild him as a singles competitor again? I did briefly mention that as we were talking about his matchup tonight. There was no reason for him to be squashed by Omos in 2 minutes. There was absolutely no reason you could give me to sell me on that. If I was producing this show, I would absolutely nix that right in the butt. Someone hand me that on the script. I'm like, no. I don't care that we're not going with the Morrison Miz thing. I said last week when we were talking about that it's way too soon to even do that. So I was glad that the Miz decided not to show up tonight. I was glad they were going in a different direction. But then when I saw the giant Omos, I'm thinking this is not going to be good for anybody. And it certainly wasn't good for John Morrison. Here they were sitting on an opportunity to go out there and make this guy look like championship material. Here's a guy that has won the world championship in Lucha Underground. Here is a guy that has won the world championship in Impact Wrestling. And he can't get even within a sniff of a world championship in the WWE because he's walking around dripping. And I think Vince McMahon likes that more than his actual wrestling ability. So come on. That was a complete waste of Morrison's talent and ability and the wasted opportunity to have him make a statement on Monday Night Raw. Have him go out there and wrestle Mansoor. Have him go out there and wrestle Ali, who we're missing tonight. You want to talk about people that weren't on the show? Mansoor, Ali, Retribution, Mush and Teabag, they were missing in action. Alexa Bliss was missing in action. Asuka, as Maximus Sage points out, was missing in action. Where were all these people tonight? Where were all these people tonight? They were actually they were better off wherever they were than being a part of this shit show known as Monday Night Raw. Shoji goes on to ask, what's with Charlotte? Well, one, I don't care. First and foremost, anything that has to do with Charlotte, I don't care. I don't care what their plans are. I don't know why they keep having her face heels where she is obviously a heel. It's meaningless, right? They threw this together because they have nobody else to challenge. How many times do we want to see Charlotte Flair versus Asuka? All the cool girls are really over on SmackDown now. Naomi's over there. You got Becky Lynch is over there. Bianca's there. Sasha's there. Who else is even over here on Monday Night Raw that's worthy of a championship spot? I mean, I would definitely say Shayna Baszler, even though she's done nothing but fucking lose on the roster. And if you're not taking that into account, because obviously you're not by positioning Nia Jax in that spot, why didn't you give it to somebody like Shayna? And give us something we've never seen before. Shayna versus Charlotte in a serious manner. Why is Shayna still with Nia? Weren't they breaking up with the whole Reginald thing? Wasn't that a significant split? There seems to be still tension going on there, but I could really care less about them breaking up. I just want it to happen. I don't need a whole fucking storyline behind it. We don't need a feud to come out of it. Just end it part ways. Let Shayna go be the Queen of Spades, and you could be booking this thing Queen of Spades versus the Queen Charlotte Flair. You got the Queen of the Ring coming up, right? That's a good spot to have Shayna Baszler come up once again, make people take her seriously, have her win the Queen of the Ring, and then challenge Charlotte Flair. You could do many interesting things like that, but instead we're getting fucking Nia Jax being put in there, nearly murdering half of the women's roster. And she just seemingly cares not. And if she hears my commentary or she sees all the criticism she's going to get, she's going to blame it on us, and we're stupid marks, and we don't know anything, and she works real hard, and I'm sure she does. But it doesn't translate when we get to Vince McMahon's main TV show or whatever TV show she decides to be on. It's just ridiculous. I hate it. I hate everything about it. As I said earlier, Charlotte Flair's bad enough on her own. Nia Jax is even worse. So then you're going to take those two balls and mash them together, and you think you're going to get something good out of it? You got the most overrated woman versus probably the worst woman on the roster. Nothing good's going to come of it. And the biggest loser of all is us. Where if you didn't watch tonight, then you won. And you're the winner. But then I'm the loser. Because I had to fucking sit through that shit. And Nia Jax made me feel bad for Charlotte Flair. That's how bad Nia Jax was. That's how bad she threw her around. That's how hard she was hitting and how bad she hurt Charlotte tonight. I felt bad for a woman that I have zero empathy for because I'm just sick and tired of her character being on my TV screen and being pushed to the heavens with a bigger and higher push than Roman Reigns has ever had. It's too much. And it's okay if you like her. You're entitled to like her. My boy D-Boy, you're fine. Don't be sorry to be a Charlotte fan. It's perfectly fine. My wife loves Charlotte Flair. I still love my wife. It doesn't change anything. But that's my opinion and that's yours. And we could both exist on the same plane and continue to be friends. Can you imagine that? Try telling that to an AEW fan. What else do we got? Gorilla Strong, my brother the Gorilla's in the house. I missed your little chat here. I swear Nia Jax must be Vince's muscle. Ric Flair shows up at NWA. Nia is sent out to smush Charlotte's face. You know what? I didn't even think that. I got to give you props for that. I forgot the fact that, first of all, you know what's going on with Habu, right? Andrade's over in AEW, and he was in AAA Mexico with Ric Flair, and now Ric Flair ended up at NWA 73 over the weekend, and that is a very astute observation, my friends. One that kind of flew right over my head, and I didn't even think about. Was this Vince's sick, twisted ego getting some kind of pleasure out of punishing Charlotte Flair for her father's actions this weekend? That, my friends, that's a great point. That is a great point, and I wouldn't put it past those sons of bitches to do something like that. I wouldn't put it past them at all. It could have been the plan from day one. It could have been the whole reason that they ripped up the Monday Night Raw script to begin with this morning. Apparently, in the news throughout the day, it was a crazy day on Monday Night Raw because they canned 3 matches. We were supposed to get Bobby Lashley versus Sheamus again. We were supposed to get The Miz and John Morrison. There was another match announced. I don't remember exactly what it was, but all 3 of those matches were scrapped. They gave us this Monday Night Raw instead. It probably wasn't much better than what they already had planned, but I wouldn't put it past them to make that the number 1 priority.
All right, we're going to rewrite this thing, and we have to punish Charlotte somehow. So we'll just put her in there with Nia. She'll take care of it, and she won't even mean to.
That's a great idea, boss. Great idea, boss. Yeah. Fucking ridiculous. Ridiculous. So ridiculous. Sorry, Justin Cowboy. You missed the majority of the review, but feel free when we finish up over here in just a few minutes to go back and watch it in its entirety because it's a really good one. It's a fantastic one. I was on the ball tonight, right, guys? You could back me up if you were here the whole time. It's okay. You could tell everybody. Let them know because there's no wrestling show like the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. Best fucking sledgehammer wielding show in town. And you can't dispute that because there's nobody else on YouTube wielding a sledgehammer like I do. Or at all, for that matter. Fucking ridiculous stuff. Ridiculous stuff on Monday Night Raw tonight. I think if we take Nia and all that fucking nonsense out of the equation, and we look at everything as a whole, I think what we're seeing is them hitting the panic button. And they're trying to do new things. And I guess you can't fault them for that. Let's be fair. Let's be fair. At least they're trying. It doesn't matter. You know, maybe it's not going right yet. But that one good segment, you can allow a little bit of hope to trickle in there. Because sometimes all it takes is that one spark. And when they get wind of how everybody loved that one thing so much and not so much of everything else, you know, maybe it'll cause some kind of a reverberation to make them fine-tune it even better. You can't tell me they're not feeling the heat when they're throwing away fucking scripts day of and rewriting shows. You know, so I appreciate the effort, but we still got to get better, right, guys? They've got to do a better job. You can't take possible future main event superstars and throw them under the bus in 2 minutes to a giant man that can't wrestle his way out of a paper bag. From what we've seen, that's my assessment. And you can't dispute it. Because this guy's not a big man. Omos going out there diving over top ropes like Drew McIntyre and The Undertaker. He's not doing agile things. He's doing Great Khali things. He's doing Giant Gonzalez type things. He's not even as good as the Big Show, and the Big Show is only so good. You know, he's not great, but he does hold the distinction of probably being the greatest big man to be in the sport. He was the most athletic I've seen. Andre the Giant will always hold a special place in my heart as the greatest big man ever. Let's just get that straight. But if you want to talk athleticism, in-ring contributions, and performance, Big Show maybe has the edge on the Giant. Giant has the longevity. He has the legendary career. He's got the big moments, much bigger than anything Big Show ever did. But just from a pure athletic standpoint, Show was able to go. You know, he was able to move. Andre, especially in his later years, was not able to move as he was in his prime. This guy, Omos, I don't know what he can do. I know he could do a tree slam, and he could do a mediocre clothesline, and he could scream. We see you yell. Great, big man, you know. Want to see more than that from you. And when John Morrison is the victim of said squashing, I can't do anything but bring poop hammers down on it, you guys. There's just nothing more that could be said. It's like they take one step forward and take 12 steps back. 20 minutes of a 3-hour show was good. That's all I get. That was the overall pulse of Monday Night Raw tonight. Let's take one last look in the chat. What are we talking about, my friends? Maximus says this is the same company that punished Lana for weeks because of Miro. True. We all know Vince hates his name being said, and now on another company by Ric Flair. True. Excellent point. Sounds like you didn't miss much. Same garage as last week. Sure, if you keep your garbage in the garage, it's the same garage as last week. Why not? Monday Night Raw is a garage of garbage and a caravan of crap parked right outside that garage of garbage. There's no other reason for Nia to beat Charlotte, who is the champ clean, when it was just a thrown together match. It all makes sense to me. You guys are speaking facts because you're sledgeheads, and that's what we do. We speak facts around here. Flair did go back to the NWA this weekend. I don't know how long he's going to be there, but he did make an appearance. He did mention Vince McMahon's name, and that might be very well why Charlotte Flair was nearly assassinated tonight by Nia Jax. WWE is more reactive and not so much proactive like they used to be. This is true. Also, Gorilla's got a great mind. The Big Show has so much knowledge of the business. Hopefully, he's passing it down to those in AEW. I don't want to see the Big Show in the ring as much as I would just like to see him, you know, helping the talent evolve. Maybe he's got some good stories he wants to tell. Tell the stories that you never got to tell yourself. But do it with the new generation. I think I'd be all right with that. Shoji says, with Priest, 2 things. 1, they are building Priest. 2, the U.S. title is becoming relevant again. Maybe they were waiting for this for the crowds to return for Priest. I wouldn't give them that much credit, and let's not jump the gun on the U.S. title becoming relevant again. Well, I do, again, I appreciate the booking. It was a very smart way to book it. You made the United States title look great. Sheamus was a decent United States champion. He was putting on great match after great match. But we have to see where they go from here. This is a company that could very well show up next week and have Damian Priest lose to Drew McIntyre in a non-title match to establish that Drew McIntyre is the number one contender. In which case, all their work that they did tonight could very well be undone. And even though I just spoke that out into the universe, I hope I didn't speak that into existence, because that is certainly not the right way to go. Honestly, I don't know where there is to go, because there's nobody on Monday Night Raw worthy enough for Damian Priest to do this with for the United States Champion. He already beat Sheamus, right? You can't do Lashley. Drew McIntyre is a babyface, so we're going to have a babyface feud, which is going to be uncomfortable at best, because Drew's a terrible babyface. He's just going to want to tell us history stories and shit. And Damian Priest is almost there, but not quite there just yet. I don't think anybody would really be interested in that. You got guys on the roster that we featured before, or were featured here in other segments. Guys like AJ. Why isn't AJ going against Damian Priest for the United States title? Why isn't that even in the forefront of anybody's mind as a possibility, as a program for the future? You want to get the kid over. You want to put him in the ring with one of the most accomplished wrestlers of all time, a person that they compare to Shawn Michaels, a person that they say is the second coming or the modern day Shawn Michaels. You don't think he could learn and soak up from that? And then you have the big man, little man element. It's so beautiful. You can do things like that, but they're not. AJ Styles is wrapped up in the tag team division to get over this giant fucking walking tree. They're not going to do anything interesting. That's what I'm afraid of. This is a great launching point. But where do they go from there? They did the right thing last week by splitting The Miz and Morrison. And what did they do this week? They threw John Morrison under the bus. They buried his ass, so to speak. And I hate using that word. It's so overused. Everybody gets overcritical. Oh, they buried him. Oh my God, they buried him. Oh, they buried him. I mean, he can come back from it. He's fucking John Morrison. He's been through much worse. But let's be honest here. There was a terrible, terrible thing to do. Terrible thing to do. What else are we talking about in the chat here? Every week I say that this is my last. One day it will be. I'm trying to hold on. D-Boy Q. We all say it. We all say, as a wrestling fan, I think we all know we're going to say it at this point. It's been years and years of terrible stuff. We've sat through this terrible shit before. I sat through the mid-90s. I was just a spry young sledgehammer, barely with a long enough handle to swing around. But I was watching, and I sat through all that shit. I sat through the Doink the Clowns, who I loved, by the way, and I sat through the Lex Lugers and the Yokozunas and the Big Daddy Cool Diesels and the fake Razor and the whole thing. I sat through some of WWE's worst years ever. And now it feels like we're going back to that again. But we came out of that, didn't we? After that really, really bad period, we had the fucking Attitude Era, which everybody loves and everybody overly loves and everybody picks and chooses what they remember. And I don't mean at all to shit on the Attitude Era. It was one of the most fun, most amazing eras a pro wrestling fan could ever live through. But let's not forget, this was the same era in which we had tag teams like the Headbangers around, and there was a lot of meaningless garbage on Monday Night Raw, even back then. But you forget about all that shit, because by the end of the night, Stone Cold was covering Vince McMahon in a beer bath, or Kurt Angle was covering everybody in a milk bath, or The Undertaker was trying to crucify Stone Cold Steve Austin, and you forgot about the fact that you had to watch fucking Salvatore Sincere versus Bastion Booger. You forgot about that part of Monday Night Raw, right? Or you forgot fucking Damien Demento versus The Undertaker. and stupid little matches that didn't matter. Because you have these awesome moments to remember, and it gives everybody a false sense of, oh, the Attitude Era was so awesome. And yeah, it was awesome, but it wasn't safe from having the hammer brought down on it. Let's just say that. If we go back and review some of this stuff, you're going to find some really awful shit. Do you remember the Blue Meanie? Because I do. Okay, so let's not give too much love to these other eras. But the point is, and how we even got started talking about this, the point is that we go through these really deep valleys of shit with wrestling, right? You go through these really bad periods of time, and then it just picks up and spikes, and then everything gets really great for a while. And it seems like we're right on the precipice of that, especially with the uprising of AEW, the return of CM Punk. Daniel Bryan's going to be over there by the time All Out is over, according to many reports on the internet, which is a little upsetting to me, only for a personal reason. If I have to come clean here, I'm a little biased to Daniel Bryan debuting there because I have tickets to AEW Dynamite when they come to New York in Queens and go to the Arthur Ashe Stadium, which was heavily rumored to be Daniel Bryan's debut at AEW. And now supposedly is being moved to All Out this weekend, and that's upsetting to me, simply because I thought I was going to be in the crowd for that historical moment. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. Nobody knows if that's true or not either. AEW is definitely picking up steam. I don't know if we're going to be reviewing it on a regular basis, only because I still have to be me. Maybe, this might not be fair to some of you, but maybe I'll do it in like a membership thing and only let it be available for my hardcore fans who are willing enough to really support the channel, because I get so slaughtered by the AEW casuals, and I don't have time in my life for all that negativity. But, other than moments that are going to happen with CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, possibly Bray Wyatt in the future, like, I don't really have any interest in anything else that's going on over there. I mean, right now we got Kenny Omega versus Christian, and everybody's acting like it's the greatest fucking thing in the world over there, and I hate it. I hate it. I hate everything about it. I hate that Christian is the fucking Impact World Champion. Everybody's going fucking backwards, and they get a WWE guy, and they're like, oh, let's just put him on top so everybody thinks we're fucking relevant again. AEW fucking did it too. They're not safe from it. Sure, Kenny Omega's the champ now, but who was the first fucking champion? Chris Jericho. Who is another big champion? Fucking Jon Moxley. They all do it. I wish they would get away from that. I really would. Impact was doing just fucking fine without Christian Cage as their champion. And I understand why they do it. Yeah, it's going to bring more eyes, it's going to bring more notoriety, but it makes the rest of your roster look fucking weak. Some 40-plus, 50-year-old WWE reject fucking shows up and is beating your top guys and beating your champions. And I don't want to see that in AEW either. I don't think CM Punk should show up and just immediately be fighting fucking Kenny Omega. He might not ever be booked to fight Kenny Omega for a championship. I'm saying. CM Punk doesn't need a fucking championship. He's CM Punk. I would rather see a guy like Daniel Bryan. I mean, I know they're around the same age, but you know what I mean? Like Daniel Bryan versus Kenny Omega probably will be a big deal, because you want to see Daniel win a championship again. I know you want to see Punk win a championship again, but he really doesn't need to. He really doesn't need to. And he shouldn't for a while. Maybe be around for at least a year before you start putting him in the world title picture. Fucking Hangman Page better get his hands on the title before any fucking WWE moron. That's what I have to say. And that includes my beloved Punk and Bryan. If they get their hands on that belt before Hangman Page, with all the fucking work they did to establish him as the clear-cut next guy and guy to beat Kenny Omega, then this company truly will be just the next version of the WWE. Or WCW, whatever you want to compare it to. But you can't tell me I'm wrong. I understand Hangman had to take some time away Due to personal, his wife welcomed in a baby to the world. Fantastic reason to take a break. But man, can it have come at a more inconvenient time? All Out should have been Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page for the title, with Hangman finally getting his comeuppance. But instead, Kenny Omega gets his first loss to Christian Cage, losing the Impact Championship. Now he's not the belt collector anymore, and all that work just thrown down the fucking tubes when it could have been handed to Hangman Page. And should have been, establishing a new and number one star for AEW. No, but instead we're going to have Miro moved up the card, right? We're going to have all the WWE guys moved up the card, and all these guys that helped found and start AEW going to be trickling in the background. My one problem more than anything with AEW is there are a number of people on that roster, not just because I know them personally, but because I know their capabilities and what they could bring to pro wrestling, that have not been featured properly. Private Party should have been tag team champions 2 or 3 times over, but instead we got fucking the Young Bucks as champions again. Right? Their women's division. Jade Cargill should be the fucking world champion. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. They should be building towards that. Aside from that, who else? Oh, I got the guys from the Inner Circle, my buddies Proud and Powerful. Again, they should have been tag team champions by now. Why haven't they been? Who else has been tag team champions? I don't even remember at this point. Does it matter? They seem to not really be pushing all of the people that they have. And every time they get some new fucking scraps from somewhere else, I feel like all these other guys just keep getting pushed underneath. I'm ranting now. And I'm not paying attention to you guys. Let's move along in the chat real quick. Let's take a couple more and then we're going to get on out of here. Did you ever watch any early 90s Japanese pro wrestling? I have seen very little, but I have seen some, not very much. Mostly stuff involving Inoki, Antonio Inoki, or things like that. But nothing that I really truly remember. Few matches that featured probably earlier than the 90s. I've seen some tapes of like Andre the Giant overseas and matches like that. But I'm not really a big fan of the Japanese style. I'm not a New Japan guy. I was in Madison Square Garden for the G1 Supercard. First time they were ever in the States. I sat there and just was bored to fucking tears. I don't know how many super kicks I saw that night, how many V-trigger knee shots and all this other shit over and over. The no-sell offense, it's tough guy bullshit to me. And these guys don't know the art of selling. Some of them do. But for the most, like, I felt like every fucking match was exactly the same. So, and that's part of the reason why I'm not big on Kenny Omega. He made his name in New Japan, hitting everybody with a V-trigger 100 times, going for a one-winged angel 19,000 times in every match, and only to hit it once at the end, and then it would finally be over. I did enjoy his series that he did have with Okada, because it seemed like it was a little bit more, booked a little bit more serious. There wasn't as much no-selling. There was a lot more bigger moments. But for the most part, I'm just not a fan of the guy. I really don't see what all the fucking fuss is about and why everybody thinks he's like Jesus Christ of wrestling. I don't get it. I don't think I'll ever remember. HL3, what's up, gang? I'm old enough to remember the end of the Ruthless Aggression era. It's crazy how most of the guys from then are still there. Yeah, it's crazy, and that's what's killing the company. Because remember when the Attitude Era became the Ruthless Aggression Era and there was a clear-cut changing of the guard and a lot of the guys went away? The Rock was gone. Triple H was gone. Stone Cold was gone. Vince was less on camera. And they had new guys. We had Batista. We had Randy. We had guys around at that time like Carlito. Damian Sandow. There was a lot of good talent back in those days. I miss those days. I miss those. I wasn't a big fan of John Cena, as many guys my age probably weren't in the Ruthless Aggression era. But it was a fun time. I loved Umaga. Like, I thought that was a great thing that never got any really just due. Umaga should have been much bigger than he was as well. But if I had to compare, I would always put the Attitude Era over the Ruthless Aggression era. But any era of the past is better than what we're going through right now. D-Boy asks again, or says, I really don't think DB fits AEW. That's silly. Daniel Bryan will fit anywhere. Daniel Bryan came from Ring of Honor way before he was even on the WWE's radar. He'll be just fine. He'll fit just as well as Punk will. I don't think he'll be out of character at all. Don Callis is my favorite character right now. Don Callis is an interesting cat. I was always a fan of his when he was the Jackal back in the WWE. I don't mind him as an authority figure. I think we're lacking meaningful authority figures. I just don't like the person he's representing so much. But I understand the story they're trying to tell. I get it. And they're doing a good job. They're doing a good job. If they're trying to make me hate Kenny Omega, you don't have to try that hard. But you're doing a good job. Don Callis is great at that. He's an excellent manager, and I like what he's doing as well. I wouldn't call him my favorite character, but he's definitely up there. At least Christian wrestles on Impact as champion, unlike Omega, who did a couple of Impact pay-per-views that I can tolerate, but Impact should have their own champion. I can see where you're coming from there, Shoj, but the whole point, I thought, of Kenny Omega having the Impact World Championship and being the belt collector and whatever it is he was to hand all of those accomplishments off to the next big star in AEW. As we already mentioned, was clearly set up to be Hangman Page. They did a lot of great character building to lead to this moment. And sure, Impact deserved its own champion. I hated that Kenny Omega was pulling double duty. It didn't really make sense to me. I was confused by the merger, and all of it was very confusing. But the moment when somebody beat him for all those championships, you cement that person as the next guy, and then that person goes to Impact and can drop the title to somebody, effectively giving them the rub. Well, this guy beat me for his championship, but now they got their own champion, and then Hangman Page is a champion at AEW. Like, there was an end goal to all of it, was there not? And by taking this little sidestep, the blemishing of Kenny Omega's record, which was unbeaten in AEW, up until the point where Christian pinned him in Impact. Wasn't that the point? Right? To keep Kenny perfect until that one guy could beat him, which would have made that guy extra special. But instead he's been beaten by fucking Christian. I'll never understand now. I'll never understand it. Shoji says he thinks Jade's going to win the Women's Casino Battle Royal. I fucking hope so. And then I hope that she kicks Britt Baker's teeth down her throat and takes that Women's Championship for good. I don't mean that with true intent or malice. I'm just being facetious there. Even though Britt Baker hates my fucking guts, most likely. I don't mean that in the way that, you might be thinking. D-Boy says I'm preaching gospel about AEW. Listen, I call it like I see it, my friend. You guys know that by now. I don't pull punches. I don't give a shit who you are. I don't give a shit if CM Punk is there. I don't give a shit. I love CM Punk with all of my entire wrestling being. He was my guy. Talk about Ruthless Aggression era. That was my guy. That doesn't mean he's safe. if he doesn't do the right things in AEW. I don't want to deal with the amount of blind hatred and blind loyalty that have you seen some of these fans? They're brutal. It's not worth it. Whatever happened to Jay Lethal? Jay Lethal, I think, is a backstage guy in Impact. I loved Jay Lethal. I loved all of his impressions. Before he became the Impressionist, he was already a fucking great wrestler, and I remember him from the X division of Impact. Before he started doing his macho lethal character and making fun of Ric Flair and all the cool things he could do, he was a fantastic talent. Another one very underrated and not used nearly enough in a proper way. Tara, Sister Tara, what's up, babe? How you doing? I actually felt sorry for Charlotte. She tried, but Nia is just a bad wrestler. That's what I said. If you were here earlier, maybe you were, maybe you weren't. I said she actually made me feel sympathy for Charlotte Flair, which makes me hate Nia Jax even more because you made me feel bad for somebody that I could really do without. Really, really, I could. Shoji says, Eddie, Benoit, Malenko, Saturn, Booker T, Umaga were standouts in the Ruthless Aggression era. Those are all names that I love very much. Eddie Guerrero, probably my favorite wrestler of all time. Chris Benoit, despite his controversial ending and all of the fucking nonsense and the stupidity that took over his life and made him an idiot now, his contributions to the world of professional wrestling can't be denied. His match at WrestleMania 20, the triple threat with Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Come on. You can't take things like that away. You can't erase moments like that because of one tragic thing he did. It makes him an asshole, yeah, but hey, you can't take away the accomplishment. He didn't do anything on that night except for wrestle a fucking great match. Saturn, Malenko, all those guys, fucking fantastic. Booker T, love Booker T back in the day. Don't like him so much now because he keeps putting his foot in his mouth and saying silly things like CM Punk is not going to move the needle. What a fucking goon. What a silly thing to say. He should know better. He should know better. Umaga was always one of my favorites with his manager Armando Alejandro Estrada. I used to drive my wife nuts with that. And I used to just walk around my house screaming, "Oh my God." I have the big cigar in my mouth and everything. And she would get all... I'm sure if she's watching this right now, she's remembering and cringing with all of her might because I'm a terrible person to love. I think we've spent enough time. I went a little long with you guys as a thank you for being patient with me this weekend. We failed to get the SmackDown review up, and then I thought we were going to be able to debut Sledgehammer Saturday night, but that never came to be. However, it looks tonight as if we've gotten all those things out of the way. We've been jamming here for an hour and 30 minutes. This might be a historic moment for the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. This may be the longest show we have ever done. Ever. And it's only been made possible due to the interaction and the great response from my Sledgeheads. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. Thank you for showing up in the chat. And thank you for letting me be the one to tell you guys everything that was wrong with Monday Night Raw. I know you have your choice out there. There are thousands of us podcast guys out there, but you know who the best one is. And you keep coming back for more. Thank you all so very much for being here. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the team. Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, his tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue, the Yeti microphone, the most important member of this team, as always, each and every one of you. Don't forget to click like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you are not already. Check out and thank you to our sponsor, BarkBox. Go get your deal right now. Let's try that again. www.barkbox.com/SledgehammerTV for your exclusive deal on your first box. Go check it out. right now. Thank you all so very much for being with me here once again tonight, and we will see you Friday night for SmackDown. That's going to do it. We're out of here. We will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com, where I promise Nia Jax won't get you. I promise. She can't hurt you here. We're safe. She will never ever get you. You will be always safe.